music stopped. 47,000 people gasped in unison. And when Christopher Wallace walked onto that West Coast stage, everyone knew they were about to witness either hip-hop history or the most dangerous moment the culture had ever seen. What happened next would change everything. It was June 23, 1996, at the Oakland Coliseum. Tupac was performing what was supposed to be a celebration of West Coast dominance, surrounded by death row's biggest stars. The East Coast-West Coast war was at its peak, and Oakland was enemy territory for any bad boy artist. Nobody could have predicted that Biggie Smalls would walk onto that stage. The evening had started as pure West Coast celebration. Tupac was in peak form. The crowd was electric, and Death Row was flexing its power in front of nearly 50,000 loyal fans. Snoop Dogg had already performed. Dr. Dre had made a surprise appearance, and the energy was at dangerous levels of intensity. Tupac was midway through Hit 'Em Up, the most vicious diss track ever recorded, aimed directly at Biggie, when something unprecedented happened. From the side of the stage, a figure emerged that made the entire venue fall silent. Christopher Wallace, 6'3" and unmistakable, walked slowly onto the stage wearing a simple black suit and a calm expression that contrasted sharply with the chaos around him. The crowd's reaction was immediate and confused. Some people started booing. Others were too shocked to make any sound at all. Security guards on both sides of the stage looked panicked, unsure whether this was planned or if they were witnessing the beginning of a violent confrontation. Tupac stopped rapping mid-verse and stared at his former best friend, the man he'd been publicly feuding with for over a year. The instrumental kept playing for a few more beats before the DJ, realizing something extraordinary was happening, cut the music completely. 47,000 people held their breath. "What are you doing here, Big?" Tupac asked into his microphone, his voice carrying a mixture of confusion, anger, and something that sounded almost like relief. Biggie walked closer to center stage, moving with the calm confidence that had made him a star. When he spoke, his voice was clear and strong, carrying easily across the massive venue without amplification. "I came to talk to my friend." The word friend hit the crowd like a shockwave. These two men had been portrayed as mortal enemies for months, their conflict driving album sales and magazine stories across the country. Hearing Biggie refer to Tupac as his friend in front of a hostile West Coast audience was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Tupac's security team was moving closer, but he held up his hand to stop them. This was his decision to make. "Your friend?" Tupac replied, his voice carrying the pain of months of betrayal and anger. "Friends don't set friends up to get shot, Big." The reference to the 1994 Quad Recording Studios shooting sent another wave of shock through the crowd. This was the incident that had started their feud, and now it was being discussed live in front of thousands of witnesses. Biggie's expression didn't change. "I never set you up, Pac. I never had anything to do with what happened to you, and I think you know that." The crowd was completely silent now, understanding that they were witnessing a conversation that could reshape hip-hop history. "Then why didn't you call me in the hospital?" Tupac demanded. "Why didn't you check on me when I was fighting for my life?" "Because I was scared," Biggie admitted, and the honesty in his voice was startling. "I was scared that if I reached out, it would look like I was involved. I was scared that my own people would turn on me. I was young and stupid, and I made the wrong choice." The vulnerability in his admission was unexpected. The notorious Big, one of the most confident performers in hip-hop, was admitting fear and mistakes in front of thousands of people who considered him the enemy. But Tupac wasn't ready to forgive yet. "So you let me think you betrayed me," he said. "You let me believe that my best friend had sold me out to my enemies." "I never betrayed you," Biggie insisted, stepping closer, "but I let other people convince you that I did, and that was wrong." What happened next would be replayed and analyzed for decades. Biggie reached into his jacket pocket, causing several security guards to tense up. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I wrote this the day after you got shot," he said. "I've been carrying it with me ever since, waiting for the right time to give it to you." He handed the paper to Tupac, who unfolded it slowly. The crowd watched as Tupac's expression changed while reading whatever was written on that page. Read it out loud. Someone in the crowd shouted. Tupac looked up at Biggie, who nodded his permission. "It's a letter," Tupac announced to the crowd. "Written November 31st, 1994. The day after I got shot." He began reading, "Pac, I know you probably won't believe this, but I had nothing to do with what happened to you. I was in the studio that night, but I left before anything went down. I didn't know anyone was planning to hurt you. I swear on my daughter's life I would never betray you like that. You're my brother, and I love you, even if you can't see that right now. I hope someday we can talk about this, and you'll let me prove that I'm still the same person who had your back when nobody else did. Your friend Christopher." The crowd was completely silent as the words sank in. This letter, if authentic, suggested that the entire East Coast-West Coast War might have been based on a misunderstanding. But Tupac had more questions. "If you wrote this in 1994, why am I just seeing it now?" he demanded. "Because every time I tried to reach out, someone told me it was too dangerous," Biggie replied. "Your people said you didn't want to hear from me. My people said reaching out would make me look weak. The labels told both of us that the beef was good for business." The mention of record labels manipulating their conflict sent another shock through the crowd. The idea that their feud was being encouraged for commercial reasons was something many fans had suspected but never heard confirmed. "So we've been enemies for 2 years because other people told us we should be?" Tupac asked. "That's exactly what happened," Biggie confirmed. "And I'm tired of it. I miss my friend." The emotion in his voice was unmistakable, and it seemed to affect Tupac deeply. What happened next surprised everyone, including both artists. Tupac walked over to Biggie and embraced him in front of 47,000 witnesses. The crowd erupted in the loudest cheer in Oakland Coliseum history. People were crying, screaming, jumping up and down. They were witnessing the end of hip-hop's most destructive feud. But the reunion wasn't just emotional. It was historic. "Y'all want to know the truth about this East Coast-West Coast thing?" Tupac asked the crowd, his arm still around Biggie's shoulder. The crowd roared their approval. "The truth is, it was never real," Tupac continued. "The truth is, we let other people turn us against each other for their own benefit. The truth is, hip-hop is one culture, one family, and we should never have let anyone divide us." Biggie took the microphone. "Pac's right," he said. "We let the media, the labels, and the haters convince us that we were enemies when we should have been brothers. But that ends tonight." The crowd was going wild, but both artists had more to say. "I want everyone here to understand something," Tupac announced. "The greatest MC on the East Coast is standing right here next to me, and anyone who has a problem with that has a problem with me." The endorsement from Tupac to a West Coast audience was incredible. But Biggie's response was even more powerful. "And the greatest MC period is standing right here," Biggie said, gesturing to Tupac. "East Coast, West Coast, it doesn't matter. This man right here is the truth." The mutual respect and admiration was clear, and it was healing years of manufactured division. But they weren't finished surprising the crowd. "We want to do something that's never been done before," Tupac announced. "We want to perform together right here, right now, to show everyone that hip-hop unity is stronger than hip-hop division." The crowd's response was deafening. What followed was an impromptu collaboration that created one of the greatest moments in hip-hop history. They performed Juicy together, with Tupac providing ad-libs and harmony. Then they did California Love with Biggie, adding East Coast flavor to the West Coast anthem. But the most powerful moment came when they freestyled together, trading verses about friendship, loyalty, and the importance of hip-hop unity. "From the East to the West, we're all family," Tupac rapped. "One culture, one love, that's how it's supposed to be," Biggie responded. The back and forth continued for almost 10 minutes, creating lyrics that would be quoted for decades. When the performance ended, both artists made statements that would reshape the hip-hop industry. "This beef is officially over," Tupac announced. "Anyone who tries to continue it is disrespecting both of us." And anyone who tries to start new beefs between artists from different coasts is going to answer to both of us," Biggie added. The crowd gave them a standing ovation that lasted for 15 minutes, but the most important moment came after the cameras stopped rolling. Backstage, away from the crowds and the media, the two friends had a private conversation that lasted for hours. They talked about the misunderstandings, the manipulations, and the pain they'd both experienced during their feud. "I never stopped loving you like a brother," Biggie told Tupac. "I never stopped either," Tupac replied. "I was just hurt and angry, and I let that cloud my judgment." They made plans to collaborate on music, to tour together, and to use their combined influence to promote unity in hip-hop culture. The impact of that night was immediate and lasting. Within days, other artists who had been caught up in the East Coast-West Coast conflict began reaching out to each other. Record labels were forced to reconsider their promotion of rivalry over collaboration. The music industry realized that fans were more interested in unity and authentic artistry than manufactured conflict. Both Hit 'Em Up and Biggie's response tracks were pulled from radio rotation at the request of both artists. They were replaced with collaborative songs that promoted hip-hop unity. The reconciliation also had a profound impact on both artists' music. Their subsequent releases focused more on positive messages and social consciousness rather than beef and conflict. Most importantly, the Oakland Coliseum incident prevented what many believe could have been escalating violence between supporters of both artists. Music historians now point to that June night as the moment when hip-hop culture chose unity over division, authenticity over manufactured drama. The 47,000 people who witnessed the reconciliation became ambassadors for a different vision of hip-hop, one based on mutual respect and collaborative creativity. Today, the Oakland Coliseum includes a permanent display commemorating that night as one of the most important moments in hip-hop history. The display includes photos from the performance and quotes from both artists about the importance of unity over rivalry. Music schools teach the incident as a case study in how personal relationships and industry manipulation can create artificial conflicts, and how authentic communication can resolve even the deepest misunderstandings. 28 years later, the night Biggie surprised Tupac on stage remains the most powerful example of hip-hop's capacity for healing and unity in the face of division and conflict. The unexpected appearance that could have ended in violence instead became a masterclass in forgiveness, friendship, and the power of authentic human connection to overcome any obstacle.